Hey, welcome to Chapter 1.1 on Rational Numbers video notes. Our learning intention during Chapter 1.1 is to understand absolute values and ordering of rational numbers. So first, I started out with some review for you. So you're going to add or subtract to simplify the expression below. I'm going to do a couple of these with you, and then I'm going to have you pause your video and finish the other ones. So 3 minus 5, if I have a positive 3 and I take away 5, I'm going to have negative 2. I'm going to jump down here to this one, negative 6 minus negative 2. Remember, a negative plus a negative is a positive. So if I have negative 6 and I add 2, it's still going to have me in the negative, and it's going to be negative 4. Let's jump over here. So 2/5 plus 4/5. Remember, when I'm adding or subtracting fractions, these need to have the same denominator. So this one does, making that quite simple to simplify. I'm just going to go 2 plus 4, which is 6, over 5. But remember, that's actually not simplified. So I need to simplify that down even further. I'm going to take a 5 out of here. So 5 over 5 is a whole number, making it 1, which leaves 1 up at the top. So 1 and 1/5. The reason I know that I got this simplification correct is I will take 5 times 1, which is 5, and then I'm going to add 1 to that number. So 5 times 1 is 5, plus 1 is 6, which would make it 6 over 5, which gets us back to that number. I'm going to jump down here to the subtraction problem. 1/3 minus 2/9. Our denominator here is not the same. I need to get those denominators to be the same, so I'm going to look for the least common denominator. And the easiest method here for this problem would be to make this 3 into 9. The way that I can do that is to take 1/3, and then I'm going to times that by 3. So 1 times 3 is 3. 3 times 3 is 9. And now I can subtract 2/9. So now I have 3/9 minus 2/9, which would be 1/9. Okay, I want you to take a moment. You're going to pause this video, complete the last 4 problems, then start the video, and we'll jump back in and I'll give you the answers and we'll move forward. All right, so you should have paused the video and completed these problems before we move on. So we had negative 4 minus 9. So if I already am in the negative and then I subtract more, I'm going to still have a negative number, right? So that negative 4 minus 9 is negative 13. If I have 3 and then I add a negative 1, which is essentially just saying 3 minus 1, would bring me to 2. Over here, I'm adding these together, but as we see, our denominator is not the same. So we have 3 and 6 in our denominator. We need to get that to where they are the same. So we are going to, I don't know what you did, but here's what I would do. I would say 2/3 times 2. The reason I chose that is because I want to get this 3 to be the same number as 6. Okay, so I know that 3 times 2 is 6, so I'm going to times this fraction by 2. So 2 times 2 is 4. 3 times 2 is 6 plus 1 over 6. And now I can just solve it from left to right. 4 plus 1 equals 5 over 6, 5/6. And then here's our last problem. We don't have to do anything with the denominator because they're already the same. So I'm just going to go left to right solving this problem. 5 minus 2 is 3. And then we bring the 8 over is 3/8. So right now I want you to look at your problems. If there was any that you did not get correct, or maybe you just have some questions, don't quite understand what you're looking at in some of these problems, go ahead and take a moment to star those problems. Even feel free to write some questions or concerns here in the margins, and we will talk about those when we do our recap. Okay, so we're going to move on to the next section. This is the introduction. So these are key terms that you are going to hear in chapter 1.1. So the first two terms, rational number and integers, are not new terms. These are terms that you would have heard last year. So to recap for you, rational number is a number that can be written as A over B, where A and B are integers, and B does not equal 0. Okay, and you might have been wondering, what was integers again? So let's talk about it. Integers are a set of whole numbers and their opposites. Okay, so these are terms you should know already. If these don't resonate with you, you don't remember them, maybe even when you learned about them, you still didn't get it, star them now, and we can talk about that. So here's our new term, absolute value. So the absolute value means the distance between a number and 0 on the number line. So the absolute value of a number, I'm going to call the number A, would be written as A. So if you're looking for the absolute value of a number, whatever the number is, we're calling it A, would be written as A. Okay, so take a moment, make sure that you get your key terms, pause the video if you need to get the key terms written down. Again, any questions you have on this introduction section, write your questions, star the problems, and we will talk about it during our recap time, okay? All right, I'm going to move on to the back side of the page. So here I took some examples from the book on absolute value. So the first one says, find the absolute value of -3. So I have the number line here, okay? I'm going to first graph -3 on the number line. And now to find the distance, I need to count from -3 to 0. So 1, 2, 3. So that tells me that the distance between -3 and 0 is 3. So the absolute value of -3, remember we said the distance between a number and 0 on the number line, and we write absolute value like this. So the absolute value of -3 equals 3. Okay, we would have the same situation here. It's going to look different on our number line though, because our numbers are written in halves. So we have 0, half, 1, 1 and 1/2, 2, 2 and a half. And then we go backwards, half, -half, -1, -1 and a half. Okay, so you're going to graph the negative, or sorry, not the negative, you're going to graph positive 1 1/4 on the number line, and then you need to count back to 0 to find out what it is. And so the distance between 1 and 1/4 on a number line to 0 is 1 and 1/4. Okay, so if I was asked, find the absolute value of 1 and 1/4, I would say the absolute value of 1 and 1/4 equals 1 and 1/4. It may be easy for you to say, oh, well, absolute value just means it makes the number positive, because that it does seem that that is the case, but it is important for you to remember that absolute value means the distance between a number and 0 on the number line. Okay, so I want you to just practice these problems. So take a moment to just practice any of these problems, see if you have any questions. This one I'm just asking you to compare. So this is the absolute value of negative 2.5. Remember, if I was graphing negative 2.5 on a number line, I would put that guy right here. And then I'm going to count back to 0, which would make this 2.5, right? The absolute value of negative 2.5 is 2.5. And then you need to tell me, what is 3 over 2 in fraction or in a decimal? So you would figure out what is that. So if this is 2, 3, so there's 1 wholes. So I would say 1 1/2. How do I make 1 1/2 into a decimal? So I'd say 1, what is half? We know that half is 0.5, right? So 0.5, so compare this to this, 2.5 and 1.5, okay? So I am going to add something very similar to this to a lot of your self-evaluations. What I want you to be able to do is after we learn a concept or we've been working on something, I want you to self-assess how you feel about that. So use the scale below to rate your understanding of our learning intention. Remember, our learning intention was that we would understand absolute values and ordering of rational numbers. So of course, you're not going to have a super clear understanding as we're just starting this. But by the end of 1.1, I would love you to be in this section. I can do it on my own. I can teach someone else. Okay? So this here says, I don't understand. I have no idea what's going on. I can do it with help. I can do it on my own. I can teach someone else. Okay? All right. Make sure you have all of these finished and have this back in class with you. Have a great night.